Good morning, everyone, and welcome. We are here this morning to discuss and to provide assistance regarding the ESSER grant planning documents. I'm Beth Nave, currently serving as the Interim Director of Relief Funding. Joining me today to present is Julia Hudson, the West Tennessee Coordinator of Relief Funding. We'll begin the presentation with a reminder of the strategic planning goals of the department, which both drive the work we do and also in which the ESSER planning documents are aligned. The broad goals of the department are centered around academics, student readiness, and educators. Here's an outline of our agenda for this presentation. We will begin with a general review of the planning information. We will then move to a discussion about the requirements for the safe return to in-person learning and continuity of services plan. The name of this particular plan is rather long, and a lot of people have come to refer to it as the health and safety plan. In the remainder of the presentation, that is how Julia and I will also refer to this plan. Next, we will highlight the changes in the ESSER 3.0 public spending plan. And then finally, we will go over some resources to share with you that will help you throughout the remainder of the completion time for these plans. Julia?
Thank you, Jerri Beth. We'll jump right in to hit some high points about the public planning documents that are required for ESSER 3.0. As we all know, these plans are federally required. This is for the public spending plan and the health and safety plan. As a reminder, these are only required for ESSER 3, and they will be required to be updated every 6 months through September 30th, 2023. As LEAs are updating and revising their planning agenda, they must seek public input on the plan. The purpose of these plans is to keep stakeholders informed so that they know what this money is being spent on and how we're using this to return to safe in-person instruction. These versions must also be translated and publicly posted on the LEA website. Last time in February, if you were here, we were able to get those planning addenda translations provided for LEAs, which was very helpful. And so LEAs will be able to input their translated information and post those to the website in the languages that they need for their stakeholders. The plans also have to be approved by the department prior to posting on your website. So the first time around, if you were here, the process for getting approved was pretty extensive. With the planning addenda, we've seen that process is a little simpler. So we will be reaching out to LEAs to let them know that their plans are good to go and ready to be posted. And on the flip side of that, we'll also be reaching out to the ESSER point of contact to let any LEAs know that they need to make any changes or corrections to the planning documents before they are posted. One thing we want to point out and remind you of is that planning addenda must be approved before we can review the ESSER 3 carryover budgets. So the sooner we're able to get these planning addenda submitted and approved, the sooner we'll be able to get to reviewing those 3.0 budgets. I also wanted to remind you that you can always let us know via email that you have uploaded these. We'll show you in just a second the pathway to upload these in that LEA document library, but we will be checking periodically, and as the time comes for them to be due, we'll be checking every day. But it's always helpful if you want to reach out and let us know that they're ready to be reviewed along the way. So as we look at the safe return to in-person learning plan, otherwise known as health and safety. Those updates are going to be due moving forward September 15th and February 15th. You will upload in ePlan in the LEA document library just as you did before. There are a few little changes to the path, so you'll notice that it is now FY23 and it is ESSER 2.0 and 3.0 documents. So ESSER 1.0 has been removed from that path because we know that it is coming to an end. And so we will not have to worry about ESSER 1.0 with these documents moving forward. There is some information that's required for LEAs, and we ask that LEAs visit every question and respond to every question in both of these documents. So the first thing that LEAs need to clarify is how they have continued to engage in meaningful consultation with their stakeholders as they revise their plans. We know that plans may have changed. There's always new developments and changes, whether it be new guidelines, cases are up, cases are down, especially with thinking of with the spending plan that we'll talk about later, supply chain issues, labor changes, all of those things come into play. And so we want to make sure that we're continuing to engage our stakeholders, continuing to revise our plans as we go and as changes are made. LEAs also should describe how you've engaged with the health department as you revise your plan. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. Some different ways to think about engaging with your stakeholders and with the health department, which we'll get into a little bit more in a minute, is just thinking about what are the best ways to reach the people in your community that need to be involved. So we've seen lots of different modes of engagement, and we of course encourage you to apply multiple modes of engagement when you are doing consultation with stakeholders so that you can reach as many people as possible. So things like parent advisory committees, the PTO, board meetings, commission meetings. We know a lot of districts use surveys, civic organizations, even parent-teacher conferences, open houses. Any of those things are really great ways to get feedback and to engage with your stakeholders. As you're thinking about the health department, just how are you keeping up to date? How do you know what's going on, what changes, what recommendations have been made? Are you meeting with those officials? Do you have regular discussions? Those are some things to keep in mind as we talk about how to engage with the health department. We also ask that LEAs provide, to the extent of which you have updated any policies and a description of those policies on the health and safety strategies that are mentioned under question 3 in the document. And we also ask that you provide a current description as how you're ensuring that the continuity of services for your students and staff are continuing. That includes a range of different needs. So it could be academic, social, emotional, mental health. And those are things like maybe providing food boxes, mental health counselors or guidance counselors. We've seen some LEAs that provide EAP services for their staff. They maybe have provided devices or hotspots for students. They have school advisory councils so they can identify issues within the school and work to meet those needs. So I mentioned that we would talk a little bit more about engaging with your health department as you develop this plan. That is a requirement with these planning addenda. And just as a reminder, engagement is not the same as just giving your health department your COVID numbers. This is really meaningful consultation with those health officials, finding out what are the most current protocols, what are the issues that they're seeing, what are the best practices and ways to keep our students and staff safe, and doing that on a regular basis as we revise these plans. The plans must explicitly address every point under question 3. So those are going to be those different policies and strategies as far as things like social distancing, hand washing, meeting the needs of students with special needs. How are you addressing those? We ask that you answer all of those questions and that you revisit every question in the template so that we are addressing the most current health and safety issues as they relate to that in-person learning. We know things are changing constantly. And that's why we ask the LEAs, go back, even if you think things haven't changed that much, every question needs to be revisited in light of what's going on at this particular moment in time. And we will get back to our next plan, which is the public spending plan.
Thank you, Julia. The ESSER 3.0 public spending plan, just like the health and safety plan, is due to be uploaded in ePlan by September 15th and February 15th in the coming year. As Julia noted earlier, ESSER 1 is ending, so that will no longer be included in this plan, and that is one of our highlighted changes. No longer do you have to put any information about ESSER 1.0 in the public spending plan. The other large change that we are making to this plan is the fact that it will no longer need to be the entire allocation of ESSER 2.0 and 3.0. Rather, we are just going to use the carryover amounts moving forward. Because we are utilizing the planning document for only carryover funds now, and to note this as it is publicly displayed, we have changed the name to ESSER 3.0 Public Plan for Remaining Funds. Again, that is just to be noted to the public why the amount is going to be a lesser amount than the complete allocation that was included previously. The two big changes on the front page of this template are highlighted in the red boxes. And of course, that is the name that I just discussed. And also at the bottom, we have the ESSER grants. And again, you can see that ESSER 1 is no longer there because there are no remaining funds for which to plan. The budget summary page has not changed from the update in February of this past year. The only thing is, again, is that ESSER 1.0 column has been removed. You will once again divide your remaining funds in ESSER 2.0 and 3.0 into these broad categories and also into the specific activities. In the past year, we had a lot of questions that arose, particularly when we did the ESSER data collection instrument. A lot of people were concerned because the specific activities and categories did not align between the two. And this is, excuse me, this is just a reminder. The planning documents on which we are working now and the data reports are two different kinds of information that are compiled for different purposes. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation while reviewing the department's strategic planning goals, those goals are aligned with these ESSER plans. And this is where we see that particular alignment in those broad 4 categories to the far left of this page. The next column is where you list specific activities under each broad category. It is okay if the way the activities are listed on this plan do not match perfectly with those activities in that ESSER data report. As noted in the slide, if you are unsure about where to place a certain activity, use your discretion as to where it just makes the most sense, where it fits the best. Remember, the purpose of these plans is to make the public aware of how funding is being utilized. And also, as a reminder, only list activities one time in one place. Otherwise, your grand total at the bottom will not equal your carryover amount. The remainder of the planning document template does not have changes from the one that was completed in February of this past year. As you move through completion of this document, please remember to answer all questions. No questions can be left blank. Also, we would like to note that for the activities that you may include on the budget summary page as other under each broad section need to be described briefly in these questions. As you can see on the slide under academics, number 2, describe initiatives included in the other category. Please list those and include a brief description of what they are. There are still 4 questions on the planning document regarding family and community engagement. As we were preparing for this presentation today, I happened to go back and look at several plans and revisit them from the February revisions that were submitted. At that time, many LEAs had not made significant changes in their plans or in their funding applications. However, as we move into a new fiscal year, as we move into a new school year, we are most likely going to see many changes for several LEAs. This could be due to costs and or shortages of certain materials or supplies for planned projects. It may be because the latest student achievement data has dramatically increased or decreased in a certain area. There could be many reasons, but changes are most likely happening. Because of this, please ensure that you continue to engage your stakeholders. As noted in the slide, this engagement and input should happen before the plans are revised. It should also include all applicable subgroups in your population and should occur in a variety of ways. Some final reminders that I would just like to reiterate that have been covered before. On the cover page and the summary page of the plan for remaining uses of funds, the amount should total the relief fund carryover for ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. The LEA must respond to all questions in the document. Do not leave anything blank. Stakeholder engagement responses should closely align to the stakeholder engagement in the health and safety plan. Also, please ensure that the LEA has used multiple modes of engagement offered to stakeholders. Julia went over this a little before, and I will mention a few of those ideas again. There are several ways in which this could be done, whether you are using a survey, whether you are holding focus group meetings, whether it is advisory boards for different projects in the school system, county commission meetings, civic organizations. At any point in time when meetings are happening in your LEA, in your community, you can use that time to try to engage stakeholders in your planning. Also, be reminded that you do need to include all applicable subgroups in your population of your LEA. This can include, of course, students with disabilities, English learners, students experiencing homelessness, migratory students. There are several different, look at your demographics and just ensure that you are including everyone in that. And again, as a reminder, ensure that your stakeholder engagement happens prior to the development and revision of this plan. Finally, as a reminder, your planning addenda do require local school board approval. There is no specific form that has to be uploaded once this approval happens. You just need to keep your documentation at the local level. Julia?
Thank you, Jerri, Beth. We have a few quick questions as we move forward. The first question is the LEA does not have to answer questions for which no changes have been made. Is that true or false? If you answered false, you are correct. The LEA does need to revisit all questions. The next question is stakeholder engagement should occur when? A, every 6 months, B, before revising public plans, C, when the ESSER 3 funding application is due, or D, all of the above. And the correct answer is D. Stakeholder engagement should be occurring during all of these times. It should be continuing at all times. The next question, the planning addenda are due when? A, before the ESSER 3 funding application is approved. B, after the funding application is approved. C, September 15th. D, both A and C, or E, both B and C. The answer is D, both A and C. The next question, what is the updated title of the public spending plan? Is it A, ESSER 3.0 Public Plan for Remaining Funds? B, ESSER 3.0 Public Plan for Carryover? C, ESSER 3.0 Public Spending Plan? Or D, ESSER 3.0 Public Plan for Remaining Expenditures? The answer is A. It is now the ESSER 3.0 Public Plan for Remaining Funds. And the last question, ESSER 1.0 must be included in the LEA's public plan for remaining funds. Is that true or false? That is false. ESSER 1.0 is coming to an end. So that has been removed from the public plan for remaining funds, and you no longer have to include that information on that plan.
Thank you, Julia. Now we will just share with you some resources that will be available for you as you work to complete these planning addenda. First is the path in ePlan where you can find these documents. The templates are located there. This PowerPoint presentation is located there as well. Also, there is a link to the Department ESSER webpage. And additionally, the relief team will continue to offer weekly office hours every Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern, through the completion date for the planning addenda. There's also a link at the bottom that takes you to the page with the dates and the link to join the meeting each Wednesday. The next slide is the relief funding team contacts. You can see our regions and specific school systems in Middle Tennessee, in which we have divided up at this time between Julia and I. But of course, at any time you can reach out to either one of us and we'll be happy to help you. We'd like to thank you for attending, for listening to our presentation. And again, if any assistance is needed at any time on the completion of the public planning addenda, please contact us. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.